Alright guys, I want to talk about power supplies. There's 100 videos on YouTube or more about how to take one of these power supplies, ATX, out of a computer and turn it into a benchtop power supply. That's not the only way to do it. That gives you a regulated 12 volt, 3.5 volt, 5 volt. You know the story if you've watched the videos. That's an easy way to do it. These are very easy to do, but what if you need, say, 13.5 volts because you're working on projects for your car, lighting, something like that? Well, you might try something like this. This is an old power supply from a base station for old CBs. You don't see them very often anymore. Nobody uses CBs too much. But you find these at garage sales all the time. I think I paid $2 or $3 for this. And it gives you 13.8 volts regulated out of the back. And it's real simple. On-off switch. Positive, negative, and fuse. 13.8 volts at 7.5 amps, which is enough to run your basic radios, lighting, things like that. If you want to, set some things up. That's a cheap way to go without having to build any kind of electronics. Another awesome option if you need more current, something like this. This is a recreational vehicle power converter or power supply. It's designed for when you take your old RV and you plug it into the place you're going to stay over the night. It gives you the 12 volts to run all the lighting and everything inside the RV. Inside, you have a set of fuses. So this has 3 circuits, obviously, and gives you 20 watts total. These are 15 amp fuses each. According to the unit, it's a 25 amp output. That's a pretty good output if you needed something with more pull. 2.6 volts. That's what a standard car battery, fully charged, produces without the engine running. Very good thing to have. You can find these. As you can see, this one's 3 days older than dirt. I think it says inspected by NOAA on here. Anyhow, it came out of an old RV that was being scrapped. Got it free. You can find these all day long. People have RVs out in their fields that are just rusting away. These are usually in the RV. Look for the power cord coming into the outside of the RV. Go to the inside in the same place. You're going to find a fuse box. Go down to the floor, wherever that fuse box is. It's probably either under a seat or in a cabinet. You're going to find this bolted in there. If it's not this exact one, it'll be one that looks almost identical to this. These make great power supplies for car voltages. If you need voltages that would normally be produced by a vehicle. Another option, of course, besides the main PC power supply that you see all the time, something like this. This came out of a blade server. It gives you a different shape for the power supply. I'm actually going to be rewiring this one in another video for a case that will give me electronics. I'll open it up and I'll have everything in it. This is actually adjustable. I'll show you later. But you don't have to go with just a PC one. Any computers, any junk computers have good power supplies in them. Here's the current one I use. This one came out of another server. That's a bad boy. 12 volts, 5 volts, 3.5 volts. The reason the ground is between them because most of the power plugs I've got have the power and ground on one connector. You just plug it in. And that way it all lines up for me. I didn't do a huge thing. That's just the power switch on it. But it's the same kind of deal, and I'll show you how to figure these out when you have unknown power supplies, how to find the turn-ons for them. But that's another option. Comes out of old servers. I'm sure if you guys get on Craigslist or anything like that, you'll find people throwing that stuff away all the time. Now, the one nobody ever thinks about, this, broken TVs. You find them on the side of the road all the time. Oop, I think I kicked the camera. Anyways, you find them on the side of the road all the time. And some people try to fix them, but if they're beyond fixing or not worth fixing, like this one's got a broken screen, not worth fixing. But all in all, it works. When you open them up, you get this. There's your power supply. There's your 110 coming in, two sets of plugs here that have 24 volt, 12 volt, 5 volt, 3.5 volts, numerous voltage outputs. So if you need regulated solid power for your digital circuits or anything, these are great. And then they're very clearly marked where your turn on is. When you find that turn on wire, you just ground it, and it gives you a power supply. You have all these outputs. Something to think about. And if you don't need one that big, or you want one you can actually put inside something, this is an old monitor. Same thing. It's broke. There's your power supply. Same deal. Not quite as many outputs. It's not as big a board, but it still has your 24 volt outputs here. These are high current 24 volt outputs, designed for lighting the backlighting. But it's got high current outputs, so be careful there. But if you don't want to deal with those, just cut the little tracer going to this transformer that gets rid of that. But then it gives you your 12 volt, your 5 volt, your 3.5, all that kind of stuff. And it's in a nice little board that you can stick inside of a cabinet. Some project you build. It gives you a nice little board that you can use. The idea here is that you don't have to just get a power supply from a computer and be stuck with that one square power supply. There are innumerable options. Anything that plugs into the wall has a power supply. Granted, most of them are built onto the main board, but like old VCRs, they've got a monster power supply in them that is usually separate from the board, especially if you can find one from the early 90s. Those things have monster power supplies in them. They're almost as powerful as the power supplies you get out of a PC. Now, they only have 2 voltages coming out of them, but the idea is it's a compact power supply board that you can stick inside of a case for a project. I will show you in another video how to find the outputs on these unknown boards without knowing anything about them. But I think I'm going to end this here, just giving you guys an overview of what, open your mind as to other options for power supplies. You don't have to go out and wreck a perfectly good computer to find a power supply, especially if you need one in a different shape. That's why I'm going to be using this one, because it fits right in the corner of that little suitcase that I'm going to be using for my electronics box. It's going to have soldering iron, power supply, meters, and other various apparatus to be able to work in electronics. But I'll end it here. If you guys have any other ideas about this stuff, let me know. If you think I'm on the wrong track, let me know. I use these, as a matter of fact, that board that's in that whatever it's called, in that monitor is actually going into a little home theater system I'm putting together. It'll work. It's just a small controller that's going to allow me to run some Bluetooths and things like that. Run everything into a smaller case, because I'm putting in a really small box so that I don't have to have one of those big ATX power supplies to run it. I'll be able to put a small motherboard, run that in there, and have me a little system that all fits inside of one of those little Blu-ray players. So that's a nice thing, so you don't have those big bulky power supplies. But if you need a bench power supply, these converters for recreational, and you can obviously put regulators on them. There's 100 videos on how to do that to make them adjustable, or the CB one, which I love that thing, are great options and dirt cheap. So if you don't mind getting your hands dirty to find these things, there are power supplies everywhere. So anyhow, let me know what you think, and we'll call that good.